Good morning, Wall Street winners. It is Friday, October the 11th, and we have just had a couple of data points come in this morning that have been quite positive. First off, we have JP Morgan, which posted a surprise gain in their net interest income. So, despite the Federal Reserve reducing or cutting interest rates in the US, JP Morgan was still able to finesse their numbers and their business to come out with an increase and a gain in their net interest income, which is pretty awesome and a great job for that bank under Jamie Dimon's amazing guidance. We also had PPI data come out in line with expectations this morning, so that was positive. We yesterday heard from Elon Musk about his cyber cab and the robo-taxi event, which was well received, but maybe lacking in some data points that analysts were looking for. Really hard these days to meet expectations across the board. We've seen that from this company. We've heard that from AMD came out and announced a chip to compete with NVIDIA. And that was not as maybe well received as it could have been with just high expectations again in the market in general. So if we look in the markets section here, we can see under the futures that two of the three indices in the US are in the green just slightly, and the NASDAQ just slightly in the red, probably likely to turn that around and be green today. The NASDAQ's had sector-specific wins this week, so it's been interesting to watch what's been green and doing well, and what's been red and kind of struggling throughout the week. But if we take a look at the top of our Yahoo Finance app, what we can see is crude is off 50 cents, but it's still above $75 a barrel. I'd expect that's going to correct. We haven't seen the last of the bombings and retaliation from Israel. They're biding some time here. They're taking their time to figure out what they're going to do. And obviously, a very strategic group looking to ensure that they minimize civilian casualties as best possible. I would imagine that's probably one of the big discussion points, but also to unleash a response on the groups that they feel are responsible for the attacks last October. So as we move forward, that should cause volatility in oil, and I do expect oil prices to continue to move upwards. You can see the NASDAQ futures are off. The VIX is coming down, so it's dropped 23.23 basis points. So you can see here it's still around 21, but it is dropping. I'd expect by the end of October, the VIX is going to be closer to 16 to 18, I'm going to say, in that range. If we scroll down through health and retail, as predicted yesterday, Costco, after 2 great days, fell back a little bit. So hopefully, if you were holding Costco, you took my guidance and you sold Costco, and you could buy back in at a better price. Kind of like getting a deal at Costco. So you've got Costco now trading in the low 890s. Looks like it's making a bit of a gain today, but I'd expect that Costco is going to drop into the 880s. And if it does that, I would definitely be a rebuyer of Costco. I bought that and then sold it up in the 906, 907 range and exited prior to it falling. We scroll down further, you can see Home Depot had an off day yesterday. Walmart had an off day yesterday. And healthcare kind of bobbled yesterday, but depending on the stock, good and bad. Transport, again, not really a sector that I'm doing too much with these days other than watching it to see where it's going. Oil, though, you can see had a very green on the screen day yesterday. It's off to a bit of a red start in the pre-market. We still have 45 minutes or so until the open. Some of the stocks are green, but very few. Most of them are in the red with crude. But I do expect crude to come back and regain some ground and go into the green today. So if it does that, I think that'll present an opportunity for those oil stocks to turn around. You can see NVIDIA and some of the semis were up yesterday. The big the big sector, tech sector growth yesterday was in cybersecurity. So you can see that your CrowdStrike up almost $17, $16.58. You had Palo Alto up yesterday at $6.50, and you had Net Cloudflare up $7.51. So I sold out of all of my net yesterday, taking the gain, thinking that it couldn't do this multiple days in a row, and we'll have to wait and see. But these cybersecurity companies have been on a bit of a run this week, and I'm not sure what's justifying that. So there's no real news behind that other than the talk of AI integration into those products, but that's a fairly ambiguous statement. So we'll wait to see where the news actually comes out, or if there is any news to justify those hikes. You can see that even on a good chip release or promised chip release from AMD, the stock was off almost $7 yesterday. I think it's a good opportunity now to get into AMD in the mid 160s. I think this is definitely $175 to $80 stock. So you've got a lot of room for upside there as we move into their earnings cycle. Now, albeit it's not until the end of this month, beginning in November. So you do have a little bit of time. And if you wanted to deploy capital in a better area, I'm tending to lean more towards financials than anything, especially after this morning's announcement from Bank of America, Wells Fargo, and JP Morgan in particular, and JP Morgan's excellent earnings and revenue growth, as well as their growth in investment banking. All of those are positive signs and really good signs to invest in. No red flags there. If we scroll down further and take a look here, Lam Research up at 82. I think this has room to get up to the 110 range by the time it hits earnings. Now, its earnings are in a couple of weeks, in 12 days. So this has been beaten down quite a bit over the last couple of months. And I do think there's a lot of room for Lam Research to make a run here. And a $15 to $20 run would not be unheard of in Lam Research at its newly adjusted 10 to 1 stock split price in the low 80s. We have Amazon, which just finished its Prime Days in Canada anyway, on the, I think it was 8th and 9th. And I think they probably recorded some record numbers there. I don't know for sure. But that stock up slightly. I'm on the sidelines with Amazon right now. I do not own any Amazon at this point, but I am waiting on that one. Tesla, with the robo-taxi event, it is off significantly this morning. I think that tells me that that event missed the mark from what people were looking to hear from Elon. It was more steak and sizzle, more sizzle than steak in that presentation, and a lot of hoopla, but we'll have to wait and see what actually comes of this. When I hear Elon say the cars will be ready for production in 2026, which really isn't that far away, knowing that we're into 2025 in just a few months, I heard the same thing, or remember hearing the same thing about the Cybertruck that I ordered in May of 2019 and only received notification a few months ago that my truck is entering production and could be ready. So we'll have to wait and see what the reality of that message is. We can see that Google is making some ground, not a ton of ground, but it is green. It was green yesterday, so that is positive. I do think Google has a lot of room to run here. Now, obviously, there have been some negative press around Google with the Department of Justice and it wanting to break Google up, but that is probably just headline news to sell, well, not that newspapers are sold anymore, but to sell subscriptions to digital platforms. I don't think they're going to get broken up. I think that that's going to be a legal battle that goes on for a long time, and Google will find a way around that, as many other large tech companies, Microsoft is one example, has also been able to work their way around. NVIDIA had a great day, up $2 yesterday. It is off in the pre-market, but I expect NVIDIA will be in the $145 to $150 range within the next 60 days, especially when they get to their next earnings. There's been a lot of positive articles and press out about Adobe and how Adobe is undervalued right now. So Adobe had a good run, up $9.50 yesterday. It's down slightly in the pre-market, but I can see Adobe getting back to the 600, 650 range by the end of this year. And that could be a pretty big upside to Adobe. It's got great market share, phenomenal products. The people that use the products love the products. And the big concern is around AI displacing all of those folks. We saw that with the Actors Guild going on strike earlier in the year and that strike coming to a resolution. I don't think that's as big a concern in the immediate future as people think. but we'll have to continue to watch that. TSM has had a great week. It was off yesterday, but it's looking like it's recovering more than it was off yesterday. I think TSM is going to be a $225 stock by the end of the year. And as long as we don't see any issues with China invading Taiwan, which don't seem to be on the radar at this point, but obviously that's not something you'd go out and publish before it happened. I think that TSM is a great place to have some money, just not all of your money. SoFi has had a huge run up at 863, one of my favorite financial stocks. And then JP Morgan announcing this morning, phenomenal results, well-run company. Jamie Dimon is just a master at running this behemoth of a financial organization. And it is up almost $4 in the pre-market. So it's looking like it's going to get to 217 at the open. I'd imagine this will get up to about 221, 222 today. So jumping on this at the open, I'd watch it, but it could be a way to ride that wave upwards and then exit near a peak, take your profits, and wait for that to drop back down. I think there will be some price volatility in there today, but I think you could see a bigger spike than we're seeing in the pre-market after the open. And then once that hits, I'm just speculating, but I think it's going to get up to 220, 222, and I would take my profits and wait for it to drop down to the 216 level and then potentially buy that again. The other ones to look at that make announcements next week that I expect will be just as good, if not better, than JP Morgan are Goldman. Goldman's up $5 pre-market, so this is a great stock. We expected in the lead up to their earnings release, which is, I believe, on Tuesday. It could be Monday. I have to double check that. If we take a look at this, they're 4 days out. So they are announcing on the 15th. So we'll see them come out with earnings on the 15th. We'll see Morgan Stanley come out with earnings on the 16th. So yeah, Tuesday and Wednesday of next week. And I think both of those banks will have positive earnings. I think overall, the earnings from JP Morgan today will lift all banks and financial services companies higher, which is really what we're seeing in the pre-market across the board here as we look at these. So that's where we are today on October the 11th. I wish you the best of luck with your trades. And if you're liking these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button so that you can be alerted to when I publish these, which I do daily during trading days, and then often in shorts as well throughout the day based on what's going on in the market. Good luck.